once we get fire in the wall, it travels up these walls of the third floor, and we'll look at the void when we get up to the third floor. You'll see the void that's actually above the roof line as well. And you know, we call that the cock loft. And once it gets up there, it just overtakes that space for us. You know, we have a great working relationship with Department of General Services and the Capitol Fire Protection crew.
Just about a year ago, right down the street, we hosted a community event for the community discussing the state archive at the firehouse. And we're here as neighbors today, mostly in support of the Harrisburg Fire Department and the value of these homes and their trainings.
These are great buildings to train in for our new firefighters, for our existing firefighters, to be able to look at building construction, to be able to cut roofs, to be able to squirt water in real world scenarios. And you know, DGS really took it on, and he said, you know, we want to be able to help and support the fire department. So we're here today. We've been here the last 3 days training. You know, as late as 9 o'clock on Wednesday night, we had some volunteers from the West Shore come in, and also got an opportunity to train with us, so some of our mutual aid partners. And you know, today again we have C battalions out, and they're cutting roofs, and we're doing some evaluations of some new hose and some new nozzles and things like that.
There's nothing better than real life scenarios. You know, this is the tight hallways. You don't get that kind of stuff if you're anywhere else. So it's good to get the experience. These roofs, these are the real roofs we're going to be cutting at fires and stuff. So there's nothing better than to go up and cut a roof for real, get the experience that way.
This is a mansard roof, and so this front wall is actually open up. Some of these are rotted out, as you can see, but when we look up in here, this is actually the third floor up here. And if we have a fire in the second floor ceiling, we have an electrical issue, we have electrical fire in the wall. If we have, you know, if this chair were to catch on fire and the wall board would be compromised, it gets up into this void space and ends up into the third floor. But these voids are actually open the whole way to the first floor. So a fire in the first floor will travel these voids up through the wall, up to that third floor, and then eventually up into that loft area. You know, when you look at the size of these are true dimensional 2x6s, 2x8s that are holding that third floor up, and we're standing on top of true dimensional 2x6s and 2x8s that are holding the second floor up. Those things will burn for an hour, about 45 minutes for every inch until we start to get failure. So we can be in here a good hour under fire conditions before this thing will start to collapse in on us. So this was converted into an apartment, and so they closed off the steps and actually made a closet at the top. This can be an interesting thing for firefighters. We're looking for the third floor, and you start to go up those steps and you end up coming up to a ceiling. You got to bust through it. One of the other things that we deal with in the city from a building construction standpoint is this blown-in insulation. And this essentially, all this is a ground-up newspaper, and it makes great insulation. The problem with it is, once fire gets into it, it burns and smolders. Again, going up this wall, that you can see I can put my hand up in. This goes the whole way to the third floor. So once it gets in there, it races to the third floor. This stuff will smolder for hours upon hours. So if you get an electrical fire in here, you may think you have it out. And we've had issues in the city before where folks had an electrical socket that catches on fire, they put a little bit of water on it, they think they have it. The fire actually burrows down into this, and then 4, 5, 6 hours later, now we have a pretty decent fire burning, and they thought they already had it out. These are the roof joists that are in here. These things are true 2x8 inches, and you can see how long they are. This is all old growth lumber, beautiful lumber that will last forever in a firefight. The problem is it lasts forever in a firefight, and once you get the fire up in there, it starts overtaking it. You can see the roof boards that we have. You know, they're big as well, all dry lumber, and this stuff just starts burning. It takes a lot of water, a lot of heat energy comes off of that, so it takes a lot of water and a lot of manpower to get these ceilings pulled down to get up into this void space to get that fire under control. The other add, and our personnel have to be able to cut through all this material. So we have the decking boards, which are 1 inch thick, and some of these are up to, you know, that one's about 12 inches. We have a section of tin underneath of that we got to get through. So there's a piece of tin in here that's original to the roof. And then we have about 6 layers of shingles to get through. And so what they did here, and this is typical what we see in row homes in the city, is instead of ripping the original roof off, they just put roof over top of roof over top of roof. And then on top of that, on this one, we actually have rubber roof on top of it, so we had an additional layer of insulation and rubber on top of the roof as well. Which you can see here, we just kind of broke it off, but this will be over top. So that is what our firefighters have to cut through and then pull with hand tools to make these openings, and it's a very labor-intensive process. Lifting that heat and smoke, it's also trying to keep that heat from destroying everything in the room. It's also making the floors more tenable for our firefighters, number one, to go in and search for victims, and number two, to be able to come in here and put the fire out, because the high heat and everything builds down. The roof is meant to keep elements in and also keeps the smoke and heat from going out as well. So once we crack that roof, once we open that roof up, it's that natural chimney, natural ventilation. The heat and smoke, everything naturally wants to rise, so it comes up and goes through the roof. This building is perfect. You know, we train at Hack. Hack's a great facility to train at. The problem is the building's sterile. You know, we only put 3 pallets on a fire up there, and we don't get to pull any ceilings, pull any walls, look at the building construction to show the new recruits and even some of our seasoned guys the routes of fire spread and travel, because we just don't have it at the fire building, because it's built not to be able to have those issues. So we look at all these walls opened up. You know, everything we're looking at is wood. It's all combustible. From the lath to the exterior sheeting to the roof, to this big void space, it's all combustible stuff. And then you put, these new products in here, the couches and the chairs and the beds. The fuel load in this front room is unbelievable. We'd flash this thing off in probably 5 minutes or less, and we'd have fire up into the loft, and this would be a significant fire fairly quick.